Well, this is fun. I'm a fan, and I don't see any dead people here today. Little joke. Actually, one of the memorable lines of your films is "I see dead people," which is really fun. I like it. I want to start off with something from your writing, because I think when people want to read this book, they want to read something that you wrote. It's a personal book, and it came out of you. It wasn't assigned to you. You picked the topic. You picked the passion, education. So this wonderful line is, when you were in Olney High School, which is a really tough neighborhood in North Philly, where we grew up, was Irish, now it's black, and it very tough. North Broad, if you've ever been there, it's a tough, rundown neighborhood, the whole place. And you were talking to those kids, they're African-American kids, they're wondering why you're the highest paid writer in the world, which you pointed out to try to get their interest, which is the right way to do it, I think. And you said, I'm more me than they are them. Explain that about your success as a writer, that you are more yourself than most people are themselves, or at least you delve deeper into what that is, and how that took you to education as a passion.
The thing he's talking about is I did a Teach for America thing where I went in and taught an English, class and worked with these kids, and they were kind of like not really engaged. And when I came in, some of them were excited, and some of them were just not engaged, and it was just trying to be provocative. So I just said something provocative. I just said, I think word for word, I'm the highest paid writer in the world, and they all sat up. and so then I was like, okay, and all the teachers in the back stood up too. They were like, and then I said, why is that? How do you think that happened? And then they were raising their hands, and they were like, luck, and I'm like, yes, that's possible, definitely, luck's involved for sure. And they like, somebody? I'm like, actually, no, we're all Indians. No, we don't know anybody. Nobody in film. And so went on, and they guessed. And then, do you work hard? And I said, I do work hard, but certainly there are people that work harder than me. And I said, there are definitely people smarter than me. And, in my English class in high school, there was probably 2 or 3, that were. And I said, ultimately, I thought about it a lot, and I came down to the feeling that I was, ultimately more me than they were them. And so, I lived 3,000 miles away from Hollywood, and I'd write a screenplay about just me, feeling me, and it would be in a fictional circumstance, but it would be about my feeling about spirituality, my feeling about being a husband or father or this or that, all of it, the arrogance, the flaws, all of it put together, And I was telling the girl in the front, because she was really like staring at me, she was kind of ostracized from the group, that if you write about your experience, why you're leaning on your hand like that, what happened today before you got here, why the guy behind you is doing that, why you can't hear your principal's voice on the speaker, because the speaker is not fixed, and you just hear, rah, rah, rah. And what does that make you feel? I can't beat you. You were too, so an amazing light, and when you're yourself, you give it becomes like a light, and it pierces through everything. And I think that kind of comes from, I guess, something that came from my parents, or from, I don't know, from the culture that I was exposed to, that there's something worthy in me, right? And that's the thing you want the kids to have. And in fact, that's exactly the opposite message that they're getting. Ultimately, the book became a kind of a very, very evidence-based book. All of it's very evidence-based. I try to keep my opinion out of it entirely, but my opinion is that we're talking about a civil rights issue, and my opinion is that outside the school, they're getting a message, the opposite one, the one that I just said, about their worth and about what this country believes in them, because this is about closing the achievement gap with inner city, low-income, African-American, and Hispanic kids, and in closing that gap with their white suburban counterparts. And so telling them the opposite message in the school that they're in, to overcome the message they're getting outside the house.
Well, separate but equal is illegal, unconstitutional now. And how do these kids in, say, 9th grade in, say, North Philly, how do they get the message that's wrong? When they walk into a classroom, because they have to go, the truant officers will get them if they don't, but they got to go to school. Their parents get them ready to go to school. I guess they help them get their clothes together, and hopefully they have breakfast. They go to school. What are the signals they get that say you're inferior, that you're not going to really get anything out of this? What's the thing that you're trying to fight as you get into trying to make education work? What's the bad education they're getting?
So I think you're saying the opposite of what I'm saying. They're getting that message outside of school. So when they walk in that school, the teachers that are trying to close the gap, they are dealing with such a hard problem, right? And when at the beginning of the book, I write a disclaimer saying this is making the assumption that no one is going to fix anything outside the school, that no one's going to do anything about the poverty, about the racism, about anything. Can you close the gap just in the school? Put all of the burden on the teachers and the principals. So they're not getting that message. That's not what the research says from the schools. The schools, like, you have two kids. You have an inner city African-American kid in June in second grade and a white suburban kid in second grade. They can be at the same level at June when they graduate. When they come back in September, the white suburban kid has gained 1 month of learning from the experience he's had, the stimuli he's had, and the inner city African-American kid has lost 3 months of learning. So they're now 4 months apart in September. Then the teachers, again, have different burdens, right? So those teachers, it's not that they're getting a bad education. It's that the issues that those teachers are facing are very different than those white suburban teachers are facing, right? That kid is ahead of what the teacher's going to teach them. This kid's 3 months behind, has to go back and do the second grade stuff all over again while trying to get her third grade stuff. So you can see how it's a very different challenge. So what we're talking about is outside the school. I did not find in the research and through all those years of meeting that the problem was actually what you were insinuating there, that they were getting the wrong message in the school. It's what happens when they leave that school till the next morning when they come home.
Well, let's talk about two things you talk about. One is the bad teacher, the roadblock teacher. What is that?
What we're talking about there is, like, there's when you look at how powerful, the number one thing is the teacher, right? At the end of the day, when you look at the research, a great teacher, the one in the top 20th percentile, if you get 4 great teachers in a row, that teacher alone can close the gap. Those teachers alone. So if it was possible for everyone in the country to be taught by the top 20%, that's all you'd have to do. That's how powerful they are, right? Now, the very, very, very bottom group, the bottom 2-3%, which is what in the book I call them roadblock teachers, they're causing so much pull, so much damage, so much loss that 3 or 4 decent teachers, good teachers in the middle can't overcome one child getting one of those teachers. So that's putting so much pull.
How does that work? How does the one do so much damage in a row of 4?
Yeah, well, the row of 4 is gain. Like let's just say in that thing, the 60th percentile teacher, one that's above the average, a good teacher. They're gaining a little bit, and they're gaining a little bit. And so 4 in a row, you're gaining. If by chance you got 4 in a row of the 60 percentile teachers, you're gaining. But the damage done by the 2/3 is like you're losing a grade. You're losing an entire grade with that one teacher. So that's what I'm referring to, the roadblock thing. I do want to clarify one thing, though, because when you look at all the data and you look at all the things that the book says, these are the things that you find that will close the gap. Everyone goes to this thing. Fire the teachers. That's not what the research says when I look at it impartially. That's not. If you said to me, you can only do one thing, that's not the thing I would do. If you said you could only do 2 things, that's not what the research says you should do. If you should do 3 things, that's still not the thing you should do. So that is not, everybody's attention is always on that. That's not what the research says is the thing that's pulling everything down. So just want to, you brought it up because you're
because I read
you're provocative.
You're provocative. One of the keys is roadblock teachers.
Yes, and it's the one that's most, that's the one. But I just want to make sure.
But
it
is one of your 5.
It is one in the 5.
So I wasn't off base.
No, you're not. But I want to
balance
it out.
I just tried. I think you're argumentative, but that's okay. You put that too much. Look, it seems to me that this city's gone through a roiling political year last couple of years. We've had a mayor most people liked. He wasn't the most connected guy in the world. He was a bit aloof, but he was honest, which is good, and he was respected, which is good. And he had a school superintendent, Michelle Rhee, who was judged to be very tough, demanding, was like a tiger mom, who basically had an attitude about getting rid of the bad teachers. And along comes Randy Weingarten of the American Federation of Teachers and drops $1 million in the coffers of Vincent Gray, and they knocked this person out. A lot of people thought that wasn't a good thing for this city. Your view?
Wow.
Ha!
Okay, so let me go back a bit. So I met Michelle. We met Michelle for the book when she was chancellor, and she's a lovely lady and was very forthcoming with all of her beliefs and all that stuff. Here's the reality. You're gonna think I'm dancing around your question, and maybe I am, but is